Hello, good morning. My name is Ramnath, an executive director in MyCFO. The topic of today is, can we create value through a good compensation design? So essentially what we will look today is on the employee cost, or what we call as the payroll cost. Typically, if you look at any manufacturing organization, payroll would be a major composition of their overall cost structure. Roughly on an average, you can say it would be about 7 to 10% of sales, or as high as 30% of their overall OPEX. But the thing is, do we look at payroll or employee cost as a cost, or do we look at it as an investment? I think we should start looking at it as an investment, and once we do that, we then start measuring, is there a return on the investment, or what we call as ROI. So how do we do this ROI measurement? Typically, before we start doing ROI measurement, we decide what do we want to measure. Do we want to measure the company's overall growth? Do we want to measure bottom line, productivity, or is it employee turnover, our ability to recruit and retain employees? So these are the factors at the upfront we'll have to decide. And once we do that, we then look at what does it take to structure a good compensation package or overall compensation approach within the organization, by which we could make sure that we get a good return on the amount invested in employee cost. So there are about 5 factors I would like to talk about. To begin with, the starting point should be the company strategy. Normally, compensation should in fact help the company to improve the employee engagement. So a good design of compensation policy could be an effective tool to make sure that the whole organization starts moving towards the overall roadmaps that is set in the company's corporate strategy. So this is the first factor. We start off with the corporate strategy and then design the company policy or the compensation policy in line with the overall company objective. The second factor I would say is we should look at what stage or which market does the company operate. What I mean by that is, if a company is in a matured market or is in a stage which is already in a matured state, we look at more on profitable growth. Whereas for an young organization or a startup organization, we would be looking at market access or improved sales growth. So effectively, the reward or the compensation policy should also be structured around that. So we probably reward more getting new customers in case of a new company, or the same company can have different structures. For example, a global multinational company could have a market access approach in one geography, in an emerging market, for example, or could say more value over volume in a more matured market. So you then try and see how you could structure your compensation policy around that. The third factor would be, how do we influence the company or the employee's behavior in the way that we overall achieve the company's objective. So basically, you reward those behaviors which are aligning to the company's approach. To give an example, now if the company's policy to build teamwork, then you give more weightage to for probably the team success or the overall company profitability rather than individual successes. So this is one other factor. The fourth factor would be, how do we create, as the organization becomes much bigger and larger, how do we make people more empowered and also make them more entrepreneurial? What I mean by that is, once you have larger organization, you may have to have more verticals or SBUs or even geographies which are managed more independently as profit centers. So effectively, in such a scenario, you would need to have a good, transparent, consistent and reliable way of measuring the performance of these profit center. There would be, these profit center would become sort of independent profitable unit, and we need to have proper measurement to see how the common services or the support functions and the costs are allocated to these SBUs or geographies in a consistent and reliable manner. So this is the fourth factor. The fifth one, and the more important one, is how do we create value by compensation package. Value essentially is an interplay between effectiveness and efficiency. By effectiveness, I mean the qualitative aspect. Do we do things which our customers want? Are we helping our customers to be more successful? So these are some of the qualitative aspect. And do we do it in a more profitable way is what I call it as a quantitative aspect. So between the qualitative and quantitative aspect, we can structure the compensation package in a manner that we are able to influence the behavior of employees to drive this. Every employee either is involved in increasing business for the company, or supporting the customers, or servicing the customer, or he or she may be involved in the operations of the company, where they make sure that we do it in a more productive way. So for each of these factors, we can create clear KPIs within the organization and have reward structures for each of the KPIs and the achievement. That's the way we would drive the organization towards the overall objective of creating value for the company. So just to sum up, I would say that we look at employee cost not as a cost alone, but as an investment, and then look at areas or the factors that we want to make sure that the employees drive, and overall start measuring each of those areas in a clear and a consistent manner. This, I suppose, would help to look at employee cost as an investment rather than as a mere cost, and get involved into cost cutting exercise, but we will try to get more productivity and results out of the employee compensation packages. Thank you.